The charity program of the Galactic Coalition was just what one should anticipate from a group of great beings who know how to travel faster than light. Yet, they were still unable to grasp the idea of the real picture of charity. If you will, the generosity that comes with a 100-page contract, along with enough patronizing footnotes to make a lawyer cry. Ambassador Sex should be thankful, declared that their crystalline appendages were flashing in what they likely believed to be a generous gesture. But not all. The time it took for primitive species to be given such attention was longer than Earth's. Throughout the Industrial Revolution, Captain Zyra Blackwood resisted the impulse to roll her eyes and stood at attention. They would work hard to reach orbital velocity behind her and her motley company as they upheld what could be charitably described as military discipline, Lieutenant, as the alien media so affectionately termed them. Diego Martinez counted the tiles on the ceiling as Maya Chen, the lead engineer, mentally redesigned the complete snatch from her prestral. The engineer was losing a battle with an inconsiderate sneeze and the ineffective lighting system in the ceremonial hall. X now proceeded to modulate their speech into what others would understand as the announcement of a participation award. We present Earth's very own interstellar spacecraft, the enormous, with all the pomp and circumstance of a cosmic joke's punchline, the hangar doors parted, and humanity's Earth's delegation's collective breath intake from the first alien-gifted vessel wasn't more akin to the sound you make when your wealthy aunt hands you a hand-me-down sweater that she says was in style. We referred to the previous ice age as another pause because this one was pregnant enough to be eligible for maternity leave. When Blackwood and Mach, the probability manipulator, gazed at the ship, it appeared as though someone had taken every rejection. They were thrown into a blender from a sci-fi concept artist's trash folder. It struck pure as yelling into the future. The hull was an unthinkable hue of purple, if purple had abandoned in the middle of developing into a color module that protruded at angles that caused geometry mages to scream. It is astonishing how Blackwood managed diplomatic training to earn its keep. Brightened, oblivious to, we're missing the deliberate neutrality in her voice, which is the last one of its kind left. They claimed that all others had been upgraded, as most individuals do. Apparently fed up with this diplomatic dance, quick technical euthanized Maya Chen raised her hand. Wonder why it appears to be held together by dubious engineering and spite. The alien delegation exchanged glances before making choices, screaming, "How can we teach quantum mechanics to a probability manipulator goldfish? It works on ideas that your species may find difficult," for one of the younger ambassadors stated that it needs a certain level of mental flexibility. Martinez, this is crazy, and we're dumping it on you because we're too smart to use it, is diplomatic jargon meaning mata. He wasn't mistaken, and as the ceremony continued, it became more and more evident that Earth's Great Thea, the technical manual by itself, was a gift that was like receiving a cursed monkey's paw with a ribbon on it. A brilliant example of passive-aggressive documentation that includes useful annotations, such as warning operations that may break established laws of physics, is not advised, and in the event of a temporal paradox, please get in touch with your note that local reality administrators might not be present in every dimension. The crew's unofficial, within hours, the probability manipulator Mach's designation for their new command came naturally, renamed HMS Paperweight, but Raj insisted on including the unlikely in what he said was ornamental Sanskrit. The nameplate was actually a fairly imaginative set of abaves that acted as expeditionary spy guides. As the extraterrestrial delegation was ready to go, Doodles provided one last item. Of wisdom, Recall the ship's reaction to our belief, or lack thereof. We found it to be fairly untrustworthy. They were able to make. Untrustworthy seems like a moral fault on the part of Black Double, who watches them go and then turns assessing what was either the universe's or humanity's first foray into the galactic community. She stated to her team, "At least they didn't offer us a used food replicator that only produces space tofu," which is the most complex practical joke. As she called out, Maya Chen's voice was muffled by what seemed to be an access panel. "Captain, now elbow deep in non-UKan engineering. I believe I have identified the issue. Blackwood's entire ship is based on sarcasm and improbability. Observer team, a group of misfits who had built a living by accomplishing the impossible and grumbled about it and grinned broadly before saying, 'I suppose they gave it to the right species.'" It was going to be an intriguing session, as Ms. Paperweight hummed, and what might have been agreement or probably indigestion. "Okay, mission. Let's see what this strange matter pile can accomplish." Maya Chen said that the technical manual was being distributed. The handbook instantly reorganized itself across the engineering console, creating what looked like a Mobius strip of the foot and light of the passive-aggressive footnotes, but she frowned at what appeared to be self-reading text. Waiting is how the probability manipulation drive works. Therefore, this can't be true. The guidebook is turned sideways, and it uses belief systems quantum uncertainty to... Blackwood leaned against a bulkhead and asked, "Generate localized reality distortions in English." Yes, I figured it out myself. Strangely, as if it were attempting to solve differential equations, Martinez provided important assistance from his station's highly developed, scientifically validated ship systems selected that time to show a sequence of equations that appeared to indicate that someone had challenged a mathematician, Raj Khan, to compose poetry while intoxicated. Had been silently losing a stare-off with the navigation panel when the equations were suddenly sneezed. Reorganized into a haiku including shring as a cat, which isn't the case. Mir confessed to paging through additional pages that appeared to be in 4 dimensions at the same time the aliens. She made a vaguely sensible gesture there as well, but it didn't work, because the ship needs operators who can see but Blackwood questioned, "It's impossible, so why give us coffee? Since humans make up the galaxy," she was starting to suspect that she knew the answer. Martinez claimed that we are the species that is comparable to the child who was never taught that you cannot divide by 0. Sound barrier saying, "Nice, let's break it, Raj," who had remained eerily silent. At last he said, "I don't think this piece of junk will even start," pressing what he believed to be the auxiliary power button, but in reality, it was a decorative element that shouldn't have affected the ship's functionality. "Did you simply activate an impossibility-powered starship by not believing in it? It hummed to life and everyone froze." Maya's voice was torn between professional indignation and ecstatic incredulity. Technically, Raj defended, "The engine's output increased, but I still don't think it's working." Maya sighed when she saw the readings. They're not just running on incredulity, they're running on industrial. Humans are the only species that are obstinate enough to question whether anything is functioning, as demonstrated by Blackwood's observation. As she virtually danced around the engine room, her top engineer pointed out systems that by all means shouldn't. The aliens claimed that it reacts on belief, or lack thereof, in order to exist, let alone function. They most likely meant intellectual certainty, religious belief, and such, but we counseled Martinez smiled and gave it the ship's AI, decided to appear at that precise moment as a hologram that suspiciously resembled a desktop out of sarcasm and contempt. "Would you like assistance with paperclip aid from the early days of computing?" It cheerfully offered, defying the laws of physics, and it has a sense of several systems instantly optimize themselves, but I moaned in amusement. Tell me, Blackwood complained that the hologram bobbed in her nose, which made it work better, have been a nod to earlier operators who tried to accomplish outcomes by using mathematical proofs and unified field theories. You can finish this nonsense together and get superior results in 5 minutes. Raj summed up what you're saying while carelessly inputting commands that shouldn't have been allowed by saying that we're the pioneers of the problem-solved method. You needed the ship's lights to flicker in order for the initial crew to regard you like the cosmic joke that you are. What can only be called a laugh is that people have the unusual capacity to simultaneously think something is utterly absurd, but it's worth a shot nevertheless. Do you know of any other animals that would gaze at a ship, driven by improbability and acknowledging that tracks? Maya was now murmuring deep into the ship's core systems. As she learned of new impossibilities, she used increasingly inventive profanity, and each word appeared to reveal a new feature. She yelled out, "Captain, and I believe I've discovered the faster-than-light drive, which relies on dramatic timing and storytelling. Convenience, of course, give Blackwood a pain, but it also manages to resolve 3 outstanding issues with the ship. Maintenance problems, because we could use the single piece of equipment instead of the typical alien technology." Blackwood straightened up and addressed her. "And the galaxy, which operates on genre knowledge, virtually purred right. Crew, it appears that we have been assigned a ship that exploits our worst flaws, sarcasm, skepticism, and a total disregarding our greatest strengths. The aliens believed they were discarding their most worthless things. Martina's finished, but instead of using technology on us, they handed us exactly what we expected. The more we treat it as a horrible piece of science fiction, the better the ship will function." The holographic clipboard assistant changed into a figure that suspiciously resembled a task completed. "Banner, should we start correctly breaking physics?" Raj was now questioned who had. Eventually, I gave up trying to figure out how any of this worked and simply shrugged. "Hey, why not? It's not like anything else." Today has been logical, and with the ideal balance of resignation and resolve that only the HMS paperweight systems reached 200%, allowing humans to really master them. Efficiency. On the first day of the ship's discovery, Maya wrote in the record that the ship runs on concentrated, human-grade folly. Please feed the quantum uncertainty drive at least 3 impossibilities every day for the universe. As the maintenance schedule has been modified accordingly, was prudent to refrain from contesting the HMS Paperweight's first actual test, which occurred 3 weeks into their shakedown cruise when the Drachnid battlecruiser determined that the human vessel with the strange appearance would be a great addition to their trophy collection. "This is excellent," Martinez said as he watched from the wheel, the enormous ship descending upon them as the meeting with space pirates was what this day truly needed. Raj stated that the ship's efficiency rating increased by 15%, perhaps due to a villain school. Snorting, he replied, "Yeah, we can outrun that battle cruiser." Before anyone could blink, the paperweight's motor sprang into action with a sound akin to reality striking its funny bone. They'd left a bewildered Droud captain behind when they were 17 light-years away. Did we recently outrun a battle with what seemed to be a middle finger-shaped trail of quantum uncertainty? Blackwood sarcastically questioned, clutching her chair as the rules of physics filed a formal. More significantly, Maya from engineering called to ask whether anyone had seen where I had left my coffee. It was right here before. When we breached the ice, the ship kindly brought the coffee cup to her console, which now had a tiny umbrella, as well as a note saying, "Congratulations on your first reality violation." But that was only the beginning. The crew learned over the course of the following few months that the more ridiculous their circumstances and their reaction to them, the more the ship's power increased. It seemed as though they had been given a machine that operated on a concentrated version of Murphy's Law. However, Murphy was now employed by them and had a perverse sense of humor. On a routine patrol, they came across a dense asteroid field that would have required days to traverse in a traditional manner, might have rolled across in a traditional manner, might have rolled, slight transition, in the wrong direction with a fiery tentaxle. That's definitely a thing we can do right now. The ship reportedly took this as a challenge and went through the quantum tunnel. Every asteroid, while its internal speakers played a song that sounded suspiciously similar to Flight of the Bumblebee. Huh? Maya objected to seeing her engineering readings take an existential tone. Did you just start Blackwood? I was being snarky, which seems to be the best way for the ship's AI to function. Happily told them that, for reasons no one wanted to question, they were suddenly wearing a top hat and monocle. Increasing as they came across a time anomaly, Raj silently said, "Watch," which will likely turn out to be Bell. Over the course of the following week, they encountered 7 Tuesdays in a row. I bet they speak, as they speak to each other in their own language. Emperor Plautus has finally found his breath. Flawless English, only to find out that the extraterrestrial species somehow understood every Earth language, including 3 that had not yet been created, and 1 that was unique to a very distant science fiction book. But things became truly strange when they encountered the quantum singularity. That's a black hole. I couldn't tell from the way it was eating light and tone that Maya's sarcasm was nearing a critical mass. Several of the ship's systems are shooting forth Hawking radiation, like a cosmic toddler eating spaghetti. Raj proposed that we try to get around it, but they immediately optimized themselves. With a smile that would have made physics professors sweat, Martins continued, "We could just tell the rules of physics, who aren't our boss, went right through the ship and giggled." Which isn't how Maya started. Paused as she observed her instruments begin to do unthinkable feats. "You're not implying that we..." Martinez shrugged. "Saying that we have already broken the causality of conservation of energy and probably a number of international physics conventions. But before breakfast, it's dinner time. What else is impossible?" Raj noted that it won't be once we've passed the event horizon. So with the casualness that would cause Einstein to weep as the HMS Paperweight got closer to a black hole and its crew engaged in more absurd hypotheses about what might occur next, it's likely that we'll emerge on the other side in another universe. Maya's satirically foreseen one in which everything is the same except that everyone has hats on their feet. The probability drive of the spacecraft whirled to impossible heights, and Martinez counted we'll wind up 5 minutes ago, causing us to suffer as we struggle to determine which version of ourselves is the copy. Reality paused, or rather Raj added, "We'll just bounce off it like a cosmic rubber band, because the black hole determines that we are too strange to handle with the black hole when it sees this ship." They did just that, driven by sheer human folly, and came out on the other side unharmed, leaving a black hole that, based on the senses it had begun revolving in, seemed to be questioning its life choices. Did we just start to break a black hole backward out of pure confusion? Yes. The AI from the ship now showed up dressed in what appeared to be a lab coat for a physicist. Additionally, you have developed 3 new theoretical frameworks that concurrently validate and refute string theory. And I think we've unintentionally resolved the quantum gravity issue. I'm not interested in learning how Blackwood determined that through interpretative dance, but it's most likely for the mathematical and structural accuracy of creating a model to begin moving portraits of myself. According to the AI's best assessment, the math required necessitates believing in fictitious numbers that are fictitious even to other Maya. Was gazing at her readings of imaginary numbers with the expression of someone who had moved past skepticism and straight. We have demonstrated that the universe has a sense of humor, and it's awful at Martinez remarked, well, changing their direction with the casual indifference for the prospect that had turned into the cruise. Raj moaned, please don't say interesting, but at least we're keeping things interesting with the trademark. The last time that was mentioned, we created a temporary pocket dimension that was entirely alternate. Tuesday's ship hummed happily, its systems operating at maximum efficiency, driven by the crew's unwavering reluctance to believe that anything was actually impossible someplace, and their inherent human sarcasm. The distress cry was being updated by the laws of physics throughout the cosmos. While the HMS Paperweight was in the thick of what the crew had begun, the coalition capital came through. Declaring a regular impossibility, they were now demonstrating that it was possible to parallel a Parker spaceship. The ship's AI announced a Priority 1 alert that materialized as a hologram between two distinct millennia. Holding a "The End is Near" placard while donning a crossing guard vest, naturally, Blackwood's is observing from the sidelines as the greatest pirate fleet ever assembled attacks coalition capital. The temporal parking job unraveled as they meticulously maintained it, since we were unable to have a typical day where we merely violated 3 or 4 basic rules of physics. The circumstances were dire. Apparently fed up with failing one by one, the Drachnid pirates chose to fail spectacularly as a group of 50 warships. The coalition's sophisticated fleet encircled the capital with its armor, which was trained on the planet's defensive shields, because everything that seemed to be weaponized was steadily disabling its technical superiority. Probability fields, that's fantastic. I said that after looking over the tactical data, they found that the coalition ships are too sophisticated to handle weaponized anti-logic systems that rely on pure. To be clear, Martina stated from the helm that he was planning an impossible course through what might we. We are actually the only ship that can assist because we are too absurd to be impacted by them. That seems to be true, and the AI verified its sign. Irony is now being read, which is fantastic. The world was jolted by Raj's casual remark about us against 50 ships on a usual Tuesday, seemingly determining that this would in fact be a Tuesday and quickly rescheduling its calendar. Did you just start Blackwood and make it a normal Tuesday? Yes, he did, and Maya attested to the fact that she was watching. Her tools attempt to graph a time loop in crayon, and based on this data, Tuesday will remain the date till we find a solution, as the paperweight plummet, of course. Out of whatever area was in front of the pirate fleet this week, 50 ships worth of pirates turned to gaze. They were calling us at what seemed to be the cosmic equivalent of a joke ship arriving at a battleship conference. According to Raj, the message reads, "Surrender or be destroyed," in 12 different languages, including 3 that they made up. Blackwood said, "That's cute, extra threatening," and then pressed the comm switch. Although there is no rational way to stop you, Captain Blackwood of the HMS Paperweight will. Through the speakers, the pirate leader's laughter erupted. "One ship against our fleet?" Martinez smiled as if he were ready to do something incredibly foolish. "What could you possibly do? Something unthinkable, most likely disastrous," Mir added. Suddenly, Raj came to the conclusion that the ship system abruptly swelled with power. Seeing that people were going to do something foolish, the pirate started to back off and fire all of his weapons gently. With 50 ships' worth of probability-disturbing weaponry fired at the paperweight, the leader controlled the energy measurements. We're off the charts, primarily because the charts decided to take a vacation after looking at the figures. "Oh no," Maya deadpanned and rolled her eyes, wondering what we should do in the face of such overwhelming odds. All of their shots back at them using a condensed iron mirror. The spacecraft, taking this amazing recommendation, went ahead and did just that, and a shield of what seemed to be crystallized sarcasm appeared around them. They managed to capture the incoming fire and spin it back, which in some way increased the energy's judgmental 20 ships. Lost power right away, and their systems were too ashamed to keep working. So they're coming around. Since that worked so nicely the first time reality hiccuped, Raj added a snort after reporting another attack run, and all of a sudden, the surviving ship's armament systems were swapped out for what looked like bubble cannons and powerful weapons. "This isn't possible," the pirate commander said over the communication system. "Martinez said that technically impossible is her specialty, and your fleet is now... Perhaps you should fly back in time to make sure that half the pirate is actually there. Should we finish this?" The fleet was now experiencing time in reverse, with its crews watching yesterday's breakfast undigested. As the pirates made a valiant attempt to coordinate an attack amongst ships, Blackwood questioned her crew. "Time in 3 distinct directions? But we could always try the thing that we can't do in theory, my role. When we produce a concentrated probability collapse field in a certain area, causing their ships to forget how to..." The AI in the spacecraft, the paperweights, wore a referee suit, which would be against about 147 rules of Martinez said. We're slacking. In physics, just 1447. Be characterized in coalition scientific publications as a sequence of incidents that caused the HMS Paperweight to fall apart in the eyes of the photographers. A field of pure improbability was formed by the crew's combined sarcasm and total contempt for possibility. It may be said that the pirate fleet was going through an existential crisis. Some of the ship-level vessels were turned inside out and others started to change into abstract art installations. A select number were enlightened and chose to become space monasteries. The flagship of the pirate masters, Blackwood watched as the remaining pirates either gave up or changed into a gigantic rubber duck. Since it's still Tuesday, Raj mentioned looking into higher kinds of consciousness, so I suppose that resolves it. Chronometers a very ordinary Tuesday, and as I mentioned, the Coalition capital was ablaze with festivities. They were rescued by a ship that functioned after advanced ships failed and their greatest technologies were ineffective. When the cleanup got underway, based on ideas their best scientists deemed to be somewhere between impractical and offensive, the crystalline appendages of Ambassador Zhu's ship twitched as they neared. Maybe due to fear. "May have undervalued the potential of humanity when we provided you with this vessel?" Maya questioned, in a tone that was brimming with enough sarcasm to be powerful. "The ship for a week, meaning you didn't anticipate us when you handed us your junk ship, which only functions by shattering reality. To be skilled at shattering reality, I'm genuinely amazed that a number of neighboring ships expanded more quickly on their own than light skills simply based on the impact of what she said. Maybe Zix acknowledged that we ought to talk about enhancing your coalition standing. I assume Martinez called, now that we're officially categorized as too strange to risk annoyance. The ambassador's quiet was sufficient. Blackwood came to the conclusion that her crew's casual rejection of the notion was still rewriting the local laws of physics. At least this Tuesday has been fascinating. Please stop stating that Rash has grown. We're still addressing the pocket size of alternate Tuesdays. The HMS Paperweight hummed happily the last time. Systems operating at maximum efficiency on utterly human level ridiculousness, and the universe's reluctant acknowledgement that sometimes accepting reality and taking it in stride was the best approach to deal with impossibility. After all, the Coalition's day off was going to be Tuesday for some time. The third hour of the Emergency Scientific Summit was spent attempting to pinpoint the precise ways in which humanity has degenerated. The presentation hall was crowded with the best minds in the galaxy, including probability itself, trying to understand how a species that had just recently acquired fusion power had transformed their joke gift into Professor Zilla lamented their tentacles as they entered the most potent spacecraft known to man. But it didn't make sense. In the midst of what seemed to be a psychological breakdown, they are treating the universe's basic forces as recommendations. Through the observation glass of the station, Ambassador ZX observed the HMS Paperweight as it rested, sometimes hiccuping tiny paradoxes into its docking bay, naively existing. We provided them with a ship that operates on improbability, and they mumbled, not taking into account that people treat unlikely. The crew recently asked for maintenance supplies from another scientist as a personal challenge, declared that they had checked their data pad and found duct tape, which is a sign of dramatic timing and wishful thinking. The necessary components, and worst of all, ZX maintained their crystalline shape. They're spreading, and other human teams are beginning to exhibit the same symptoms, which is concerning. In fact, reports of tensions were pouring in from all around Coalition space, including conventional ones. It appeared that when people realized that reality was more of a courteous place, they started to display strange behaviors, more like quantum ducks to probabilistic water. They had accepted the suggestion rather than a strict law. Meanwhile, on board the Paperweight, this week, Blackwood went over her notes during the crew's customary end-of-mission debrief. We've been able to permanently rewrite the probabilities save the Coalition capital to Tuesday in 3 different sectors and somehow convince the AI on board the ship to perform jazz. At the moment, the AI appears as a hologram beatnik. Martinez, wearing sunglasses and beret, snapped their fingers to confirm that it was just another workday. Maya looked up from her Cribbler and shrugged casually, planning a route through what might have been next Wednesday. She was reportedly taught the rules of thermodynamics to play poker at the engineering station. Coalition scientists are eager to examine the ship once more. They appear especially curious about how we, and I quote, "Should we tell them that human-grade nonsense has tainted the foundation of reality?" As his console automatically reorganized itself into a better configuration, Raj questioned, "Is that really that complicated? We simply stopped acting as though nothing is impossible due to the inconvenience," and I believe Blackwood smiled. "It's more enjoyable if they continue to believe that we've perfected some extremely intricate method of manipulating reality, than recognizing that we're simply really adept at disregarding the term. Is it possible for the ship's AI to appear? A recent source suggests that the Coalition had, through the habitat democracy, humanity is officially categorized as a reality, with threats that should be approached carefully. A warning label that said, "Caution, may spontaneously improve impossible things," was attached to the categorization. Blackwood just informed us of our next task, which is to look into A by reading from her screen. I'm going to assume that Myril delivered this space-time anomaly that has been consuming stars. It appears to violate all known laws of physics because it was originally handled by the best ships, yet none of them were able to handle it. Those are our favorite laws to break, and Martinez's smile might have perfectly powered the probability drive on its own. We'll probably teach it table manners and appropriate eating etiquette in the end. Raj reflected on a few realities. Sensors spiked right away, so please don't do that. The AI asked for its hologram, which is now wearing a graduation cap, and it was more enjoyable to hold a physics class when it made sense to sign the documents for, and it is completely absurd to restore space-time abnormalities. As the experts discussed at the Coalition Summit, they had finally given up on attempting to figure out how the HMS Paperweight worked and had instead added a new warning. For all human-operated ships, warning ships could result in unplanned outbreaks of temporal glitches, quantum paradoxes, and a few arrogant people acting as the paperweight are examples of unlikely side effects. Ambassador Zurich's looked in terror and admiration as they were ready to leave, having given humans their sure end instead of expecting failure. Humanity had taken a look at the worst ship, impossible, and concluded that their supervisor wasn't at fault. They warned the leaving vessel to exercise caution. "We're always cautious about the ship, so don't worry." Blackwood's voice returned over the comms laden with impossible and concluded that their supervisor wasn't at fault. Flickered out of existence, leaving behind a letter that read, "Go fishing for pods more." Scrawled in quantum uncertainty, impossibilities in the past, whenever the universe was strange like that. Having learned its lesson, they chose to accept it because somewhere it was still Tuesday.